Your host of California MUFON Radio, Lorien Fenton.
Welcome, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. I hope you guys are all having a great Wednesday evening. I am... let's see. Where am I? Oh, my God. So many things are going on. I don't even know where to start. I guess the first thing we're going to cover tonight is the fact that the MUFON Symposium is coming up in a few weeks, and you guys all know about that. It starts on the 21st, runs through the 23rd, and I'm going to be there, and it's going to be a very interesting event, as you guys all know. I've been talking about it for weeks now here on the show, about how Corey Goode is going to be there, and Tompkins, and all these people, and, you know, I've been getting more and more flack for talking about Corey Goode, so I'm going to set the record straight again this week on the show, just to let everybody know where I stand on this. I absolutely do not, I absolutely do not take, how do I say this without sounding like I'm being really mean? I absolutely do not condone the fact that Corey is out there now doing action figures and doing these comic books and all this stuff within the community. I think that's a horrible, horrible move for the community. I really think it cheapens what we're doing here. I think it takes away the scientific aspect of it and lowers it to a comic book kind of Comic-Con standard, which is fine if that's what you're shooting for. But I thought he was a big disclosure guy, and I thought he was out there to tell the truth about what's going on in the secret space program and the mind control and all the stuff that they're doing to people out there. I thought he was doing that, and now it turns out it's movie deals and comic books and action figures. I mean, at least this is what I'm hearing. Now, maybe that's all wrong. Maybe this is not all happening, but from what I've been hearing, this is what is taking place. And it really, really bothers me. Now, I had a guy email me this week and say, Lori, you sound like you're so jealous. And I said to him, and I basically said, I am not jealous. I could care less. I mean, folks, if I really cared about being a big-time speaker in the community and all this, don't you think I'd at least post who my guests are on my radio show each week? I mean, I honestly, my ego is not really that invested in all this. Yes, I have to have a touch of ego to be here every week, and I got to care about the fact that people know who I am. But, you know, I hope that people respect me for my opinion. That's why I do this show. I don't do this show for money, fame. You know, I don't get out there. I'm not, trust me, I could start rattling off names of people in the industry that are, that do it for a living. They do it for entertainment. This is not entertainment for me, folks. This is my life. The UFO community, the conspiracy community, my conferences, all the things I do. Do you think I do them because I do them for my ego, money, and all this glory and stuff that comes my way? First of all, there's no money, there's no glory, and nothing comes my way. I get nothing but ridicule. Robert, I hear you in the back laughing.
Keep going.
Okay, I'm going. I'm ranting tonight. So, by the way, folks, that's our guest this evening. It's Robert Perala, my best friend in the whole world, and he can sit here and laugh and laugh and laugh. He loves it when I do this. Anyhow, so my point to all this, folks, is that, you know, it's all about helping the community and getting you guys to find each other, to share with each other, to love each other. This is all about getting us all together on this planet and exposing the truth. Yes, that's a major goal for me. But more than that, it's like, you know, you guys are my family. I don't know what I'd do if the kids start playing with action figures and comic books and run down the street going, I'm a contactee. You know, it just kind of scares the bejesus out of me. So what I want you guys to realize is I think Corey Goode is a contactee, because he has some interesting parts to his stories when he talks about it that are very compelling, that he is some type of contactee. I've never doubted that. And for all you people out there that say I'm just a big Corey Goode hater, you know, I'm not. I think he's just like the other 100 people I know that have more extraordinary stories than Corey Goode could ever come up with. Seriously, folks, and these people will never come forward. These people have stories that will blow your mind, and I can't tell you about them because they've told me never to talk about it. Okay, so, it's like, are you kidding me? This one guy comes out of the woodwork and wants fame and fortune, and that's the other piece of this puzzle. I've said this over and over again on the show, folks. If they come to me and they say, oh, will you make me famous? Will you do this for me? That, you know what? I never talk to them again. Never again. Not once has Melinda Leslie, Nisha Johnston, Joanne Richards, Niara Isley. I could rattle off all the women that have become really good friends with me in the community. Not once have they ever said to me, I want fame and fortune. Quite the contrary. They've all said, hey, we got a pretty good life going now. No one's after us trying to kill us. And, we're doing really well. And they're starting to come back out in the community and talk again. These are all people that you guys have no idea. Most of these women have been, they've had attempts on their lives. I mean, it's just been insane. And, for Corey Goode to come out and say, oh, I'm the real deal and all, whatever, it just makes me nuts. I swear to God, I just go out of my mind because they have no idea. It's like the time that David Wilcock got on the air and sniveled like a baby that they were trying to kill him. I seriously, that was the day David Wilcock, he was gone out of my perimeter. I mean, just completely gone. I'm never going to put up with people who have no idea what it's like to have people really after you to kill you. I mean, I deal with those people. Those are the people I deal with. And I'm telling you, folks, they do not want fame. They do not want fortune. And they do not get up on a stage and talk about how they've gotten death threats. And they don't get on a radio show and cry about it. I can tell you that right now. Anyhow, as you can tell, I'm pretty upset. I've got a lot of email this week about what I said about Corey a few weeks ago. And I just, it bothers me that people are so sucked into the cult of Corey that they are not realizing the bigger picture for the whole UFO community that could be good or bad, or it could go south so fast on us that we have no idea. This could be like on the Colbert Report of them saying, yeah, now there's this guy in the UFO community who's got action figures about himself. It could turn us into a big joke. And I'm not ready for that. I've worked too hard. I've worked too long and too hard. And I've got women friends that have worked for 25 and 30 years in this industry. Barbara Lamb is one of them, to get some kind of, gravitas to what we do as a UFO community. And the amount of work that she's done with all the people who have been terrorized by the aliens or Americans or who knows what they've been terrorized by. But the point is this: she's worked her ass off all these years for very little compensation, folks, I got to tell you. And she's really helped a lot of people. Now, what do you think Corey Goode action figures are going to do for that kind of, person? It's not a good thing. It just isn't a good thing. It just kind of scares me to half to death. So anyhow, I had to say that tonight. I had to open with that because I just was, if one more person emails me about how I'm such a Corey hater, well, they don't understand. I don't dislike Corey at all. As a matter of fact, I'd love to have him on the radio show and talk about his experiences, just like I talk about all the other people I have on my show about their experiences. I don't think he's any better than anybody else. I think he just got better management, and I think he buffaloed some people in Hollywood, and I think he's just, on this wild ride that, frankly, I think is going to end in disaster. So that's where I'm throwing it out there. Just have a funny feeling it's not going to end well, as they all say. So, strap your seatbelts on, folks, because I think the MUFON Symposium might be the place that everything comes to a head. So it's going to be very interesting. Okay, having said that, MUFON Symposium, it's going to be July 21st through 23rd at the JW Marriott in Las Vegas, Nevada. And it's MUFONsymposium.com is the website. I believe they're very close to being sold out, and I think there's a few day tickets left, so be sure to get those if you can. And I will be there. Now, here's what we're doing tonight. Every 15 minutes, I'm going to ask you guys to help me out. It's turned out, I don't even know how to tell you guys all this. It's turned out that MUFON has decided not to have any press there, really. They're giving me a press pass, and they're giving my buddy Aaron a press pass to help me out, because he is my tech guy now. And but they're not going to give me a table out in the hallway to broadcast from during the event. So I have to purchase a table in the vendor room and possibly I'll be able to move it into a quiet corner and be able to do some broadcasting. But you guys, I don't have $300 to buy this table. So what I'm doing tonight is I'm going to ask everybody out there, if you could, listening to the show tonight, if you could send 20 or 25 bucks, if I can get 12 to 15 people sending 20 or $25, I will be able to afford that table. It's already cost me an arm and a leg to go to this thing, and I can't wrangle up another $300 for it, frankly. So I don't want to miss out on broadcasting live for you guys, for 2 other networks and a TV network, just because MUFON has thrown the $300 table at me, which is fine. I don't mind them throwing the $300 table at me. It's just that I don't have it. So if you guys could help out, I'd really appreciate it. Here's what you do. You go to, where do you go? I'm just trying to figure out how to do this through PayPal. Best way to do it is to send it to Lorien F, that's LORIENF as in Frank, LORIENF at Comcast.net. That's COMCAST.net. And if you do that through friends and family, it'll just get there without anybody dinging it. So that'd be great too. So if you guys could do that, I appreciate it. That's LORIENF at Comcast.net. It's one of my work emails. So that would work fine, and that'll go right to PayPal. So if you guys could help me out, I really appreciate it. Every 15 or 20 minutes, I'll ask again, just for those of you who don't know about it, that are coming into the show at different times. All right. So let's see if there's anything else I needed to talk to you guys about. Yeah, there was a interesting sighting the other day. I read about it on Facebook. Shoot, I'll have to bring it up for next week's show. It was very cool. Somebody was talking about what they saw, and it sounded very similar to what we saw out at Giant Rock during the Contact in the Desert experience with Melinda and Misha and Tana and Aaron. And I believe they were on this show talking about it. So, yeah, it was quite the experience. I don't know if you guys heard that. It may have been on my other show. To be frank, I'm so frothing at the mouth right now about this whole Corey thing. I can't remember which show I did it on. Maybe MJ can help me. Did I do the Giant Rock Roundup about the what we saw at Giant Rock during Contact in the Desert, the ship? It was on Coast to Coast. It was all over. I mean, 63 of us brought in ships, and then there was an F-15 chasing it. Have you guys seen that on YouTube? Anyhow, there's another guy that is that caught something very similar, and I was very excited to see that. I think it was on my other radio show we did it. Let's see. Is MJ typing to me? You guys, I got to do a little bit of... why am I not seeing anything? Interesting. Okay, this is the first time Skype's ever pulled this on me, MJ. I see the bubble, but I don't see any text anywhere. I wonder what's going on. Interesting. Okay, well, if you're typing to me, I can't see it. Okay, I'll get in the chat room right now, and so without further ado, we are going to introduce our guest tonight, and that is my good buddy, Robert Perala. And you can find out more about Robert at robertperala.com, and also as at United Light. Are you still working with that website, Robert?
No, but the new website, robertperala.com, is going up in about another week. There's a sign there that says something wonderful is coming, and we've been working months on a all-inclusive site that is sensational, I hope.
Oh, cool. Well, your new book is out, too, because this is really why I wanted you on the show tonight, is because, is it a new book, or is it a rehash of the old book? Is it a revision? What exactly happened with it?
It's a little bit of everything. You know, between 2002 and 2004, we sold almost about 5,000 copies of the second book that I wrote called The Divine Architect, The Art of Living and Beyond, which was kind of an all-inclusive book that included, you know, the origin of the soul, the nature of existence, UFOs, where do people go when they die, the greatest hits package, and there were contributions by Greg Braden, Indran Velo, Melchizedek, Danny and Brinkley, Shirley MacLaine, others. And so we have been rewriting it and cleaning it all up, slimming it down, putting in new sections and commentary, and taking out stuff that we didn't think was relevant today. And it's getting ready to be released as an ebook on an all brand new website that has about 6 or 7 new videos and then excerpts and blogging from the new book. It's an entire social media makeover for me because I've kind of been behind, playing in the music business on the other side and traveling. I've not been paying attention on the internet, but here I will be.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so excited. I can't wait till it happens.
It'll be out in September. It'll actually be out in September.
Okay, September. So that's when we got to really look for it. But in the meantime, would you do me a big favor? I know it's going to take a little time, and that's fine because we got plenty of time. I want you to tell everybody the story about your abduction when you were 20, was it 22, 23, something like that?
Yeah. Well, people who come and see and know me know that, I'm not actually the preeminent researcher of all time. I'm kind of been compared to more like a Travis Walton type of guy or a person who's had an extraordinary experience. And then from there, I started studying things like behavioral science and the nature of existence and things that are more intrinsic to our experience. So I'm not a weekly sort of reporter. But I'm known for the incredible experience. Yeah, I was on the Lake Tahoe Mountains.
Your experience is one of only that we know of 2 or 3 people that have seen this type of being, right?
Yeah.
So it's very cool. Is there anywhere we could go to see the picture of the silver-clad gentleman that came to?
You probably could. It's way down at the bottom of my Facebook page. Maybe I think we still have a posting of him, and certainly I can put one up. Right away. Also, that photograph that has been traveling around was shot by an off-duty police officer named Jeff Grinshaw in Falkville, Alabama, in 1973. I didn't. It was incredible that shot was actually taken. And when you see the shot, you're only seeing maybe 10 or 20% of what's really there. You're not seeing the incredible emanation of light, the rainbow colors coming off of it, the flashes of blue lightning almost coming off the suit, and the orange antenna. They were like astronauts. I never looked for anything like this to happen, and oddly, it happened to me during Christmas time, at the same time that the motion picture Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out from Steven Spielberg. And it was just coincidental that something like that would happen to me during that time period. And I was basically somehow these 3 what looked like 8.5-foot tall astronauts come down from the ceiling. Literally, the ceiling opened up and they came down into the room in an arcing storm, and placed me in like a blue-like bubble of light, and I started to scream, and I was suddenly frozen in position, elevated, and floating in the air, and then suddenly the side of the house dropped away in what looked like a swirling tunnel. Like if you see the movie Contact, when she goes through this vortex, this tunnel, it actually looks very much like that. That's a very good depiction of what a wormhole actually looks like. It's almost too bright for your imagination, and I was traveling through it at an incredible speed, it felt like. So much so that I just felt like I was on fire, and then I had decided to surrender to it, and literally I thought I was dying. And then suddenly I was in a spherical room. I'm shortening the whole story. We can go into the rest of it throughout the show, but for the sake of a commercial maybe coming up, I was in a spherical room. I wasn't met by any little gray-green guys. I wasn't met by any humanoids. I wasn't met by anybody, nothing. In fact, I floated in the air in front of what looked like a glass obelisk of some kind. I don't know for how long, and suddenly I went back through this tunnel. Suddenly I was floating in the air above the bed in this Lake Tahoe cabin that I was at. And then suddenly, without warning, this incredible storm from what looked like astronauts that wore visors. I saw no faces. They all 3 had orange antennas on top, and the whole room was like an arcing storm. And suddenly, without warning, the whole ceiling in the house closed up, and they were gone. I was left there on the bed in a state of shock. Eventually threw up over the side of the bed, crawled across the floor, went to the vanity mirror and bathroom, and then pulled myself up and then turned on the light and looked, because I thought somehow I've been on fire. I don't know. I was in so much pain.
Was your body like tingling, or were you in pain, or what was the sensation?
Yeah. I wasn't feeling well at all. I wouldn't say it was a great experience. It just felt like my whole body was. Well, first of all, I was soaked in something like an oil substance, and some kind of honey or oil substance from head to toe, and I was sunburned from being in the presence of these things. And then eventually, I made the next day. I made my way to my little apartment in Los Gatos, California, and oddly enough, I'd moved into it the week before I'd left on this trip. This is all during December 26th, 27th, and 28th of December 1977. I was 22 at the time, and I went into my apartment, and I closed the door, and believe it or not, that was the first day I was going to live alone. I'd never lived alone before. I'd only had parents and then a set of roommates for a year and a half, and there I was on my first day, and I closed the door, and I had no idea what this was. I couldn't tell anybody it was a UFO experience. In fact, I decided not to say anything to anybody because I didn't know what it was, so how would I tell anybody else? And it led me to a series of kind of investigating, eventually going into a little metaphysical bookstore where I found the April issue of 1978 UFO magazine, and my goodness, there's a photograph, a crude black and white photograph of what one of these things looked like. And
wow.
I couldn't believe it. And then I eventually made my way to Clarissa Bernhardt, who lives in the East Coast in New York, and she was a clairvoyant, incredibly enough, who had claimed that she had contact with what she called the Space Brothers. That's a crazy name, the Space Brothers, really. And I went to her, and she asked me some questions, and she says, without even me explaining anything to her, she said, were they tall and astronaut-like? They wore helmets flat on the side. They had visors, orange antenna. Do they glow and have this lightning coming off of them? And I'm sitting there going, how in the world could you explain my experience? And she said, because I've had contact with this, and I hear them in my head. I actually hear them. And you've had what we'd call a close encounter. And I was like, excuse me? And that's what kind of started it. And you can find her story in Brad Steiger's book, Alien Meetings by Brad Steiger, and you'll find her story in there under the Space Brothers. And then, it led me to all these other people who kind of knew more about this secret world of people that claimed that they had contact with extraterrestrials, and then I didn't say anything about it for a long time. And from 1977 all the way to 1993, I did my first lecture in 1993 and decided to go public. And it went very quickly. And from there, it was just Stanford University, speaking here and there, books, internet.
Yeah, what I got to say, Robert, is you're one of the few people that came out early on, and you kind of went right to the top of the heap of talking about this, whereas what I found out from Whitley is that it took him a while to find a place to even discuss it. Because he went through all kinds of, trauma and went through therapy, and then Hopkins and those guys all came on the scene. Finally there were people there to start talking to about it, right? But it's kind of like you went from being an experiencer, and then within like a year or two, you're up talking about it to groups of people, which is very extraordinary. There's very few people back at that time that were up there on a stage anywhere discussing this kind of thing going on. So, it makes you...
They're coming out more and more. I mean...
Oh, yeah, but back in 1978, I mean, come on, 77, 78, 79, you were truly one of the first people out there, So, hats off.
And I kind of was. What was really funny is the very first UFO symposium of its kind was actually here in Northern California. And I've asked several people, do you think that there was anything before this? But it was it was actually in June, or rather May of 1978. It was at the San Francisco Airport Hilton, which is now a parking lot. And when I went and saw that there was going to be...
You know what, Robert? We're hitting a break now, so let's talk about that when we come back, because it's a great story. All right, folks, stick around, because we got lots more to go tonight with Robert Perala. Check him out at robertperala.com in a few months, because right now the website's being rebuilt, but he'll get it together for you guys, I promise you. Check him out on Facebook, Robert Perala, Perala. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. I am very happy you guys are with me here tonight with my good friend, Robert Perala. And I got to tell you, folks, Robert Perala and I, when we get about 75 or 80 years old, we're going to write a book about our adventures together, because our book... he and I have been through together over the last 5 or 6 years that we've been working together and friends, it'll just crack you guys up. I mean, the stories are too funny. The things that we've seen, the laughs we've had, the craziness abounds between us, and we just look at each other at the end of everything. Every time we put something together, and he always helps me with my conferences. He's seen the wildest and the craziest stuff happen, and you guys, I got to tell you the funniest thing. I'm always at my conferences sitting at the registration desk, and then Robert will stroll up to the desk, and he'll look at me and he'll go, "Well, do you want the good news or the bad news first?" That kind of thing. But it's more like, well, everything's going really well in the room and this and that. And then I look at him and I know things have just blown up completely. The place is probably on fire and everybody's screaming and running towards the doors. But Robert has told me, no, everything's fine. I've got it under control. Like, what the heck is going on? But, Robert keeps me sane at these events. If it wasn't for Robert Perala, I would not know what to do, because I can always go to him. I can scream really loud and yell and do all this. He just looks at me and laughs. It's like, nobody takes me seriously, obviously, but Robert takes me the least seriously of anybody. So it just kind of puts me back on track. It just kind of says, Lorien, whatever you're freaking out about, it's all going to work out in the end, so stop freaking out, because Robert will make sure it works out. So anyhow, he has taken wonderful care of me over the years. He's like my second guardian angel. So I got to thank you for that, Robert, because I swear to God, I would have lost my sanity at that last event if you hadn't been there. I swear to God, I would have. And someday we're going to write a book about the times you went into absolute laughter over some people speaking, and we're not going to mention names at all, but I mean... We've had some really good times together, I must say. We've laughed so hard together, folks, that both of us could not walk the next day or get out of bed, because that's how hard we laughed. Oh, speaking of, would you tell the audience about your Japan thing, or is that something that we can't talk about on air?
Let me think here. Japan. Oh, yeah, we could talk about it. I mean, that's really funny. I mean,
it is funny. Every time
story.
I hear it, I laugh. But yeah,
let me wrap up just really quickly by just telling you the last part of where we left off before the break. And that was the symposium, really one of the first one of its kind, really was at the San Francisco Airport Hilton. And there was, when I walked in, and I saw an ad for it in UFO Magazine, and there was only about probably 22 of us there that day. It wasn't a very big crowd. There was a young Richard Hoagland. Nobody really knew who he was, actually. Stanton Friedman, people knew who he was. There was, of course, J. Allen Hynek, who's the founder of Project Blue Book, who started the whole thing.
This is like the rock stars of ufology. There's only 22 people there. Oh my God!
Exactly, and there were luminaries like these guys, like Hoagland and Stanton Friedman, and then there was the founder, who really I have to give credit, who I think started the whole thing. That has to be J. Allen Hynek.
Yes.
Who started Project Blue Book and started first recording people's testimonies and said we should be getting together And he put this on at the Hilton Hotel, and then there was a young 20.
You're telling me that Hynek produced this event?
Yeah, this was Hynek's event.
Holy Rod! I didn't even know he ever produced anything.
Well, it probably was a MUFON event with him leading it. It was something to that effect.
Okay.
And everything was just sort of getting started up, and I didn't know anything about this science. I just know that something extraordinary happened, saw an ad in UFO magazine, and thought, I should attend this. You know, and I went there, and I was so intent on telling him my story. I finally sat down with him. It was so intent, you know, that I'm meeting the go-to guy, and my friend Dan was with me, and he's going, you're meeting the go-to guy. Do you realize, dude, how important this guy is? He was the advisor on Close Encounters of the Third Kind with Spielberg, man. And, you know, and so they had those little cassette recorders, remember? You put the cassette in and you push down the little plastic window and you press play and record. I wanted to get this.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, you know, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
It's on tape. I'm with the go-to guy. I'm so busy looking over my right shoulder to him, trying to get there. And there was a guy on my left bothering me and saying, well, what else happened, you know? And I was like, hang on a second. And so I was just focusing on Hynek. And the guy said, well, what else happened? And, you know, and it was like, you know, I didn't turn around. You know, I was just so focused on Hynek, you know, to get this on tape. And Hynek was asking me questions. Finally, I turned around and see, who is this man that's motioning to me on my left side? And I turn around and it's William Shatner. Now, how can this be possible? You know, so there it was, me, Hoagland, William Shatner, J. Allen Hynek, and Stanton Friedman. And that's how that's kind of like how we started out. And I didn't go on to become the big poobah name or anything. I came there to ask questions and to figure out how could this have happened.
Exactly.
So that's that story. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. So now this is very interesting, though. So, did Stanton listen to your story? Did Hynek listen to the whole story? Did they all listen to it at once, or did they all hear it separately? Or who actually listened to your story?
Each one of them was a guest speaker, and I wasn't certainly a guest speaker. I just got there early and wanted to meet Dr. Hynek, and just you know, so I could get something started. So I felt like, well, at this point, I'm starting to think, my God in heaven, you know, the stuff all over me and the sunburn, and, you know, I was in my apartment. I was upset. I didn't want to tell anybody about it. I didn't even want to believe it myself, and yet it's coming true before my very eyes. And really, I didn't get up and speak at all. In fact, there's even a funnier story to that whole thing, which is, it's when, after I tell my story to Hynek, I'm all done. I'm just sitting in the front row, and William Shatner got up to speak, and Dan was so busy, you know, chiding me about getting this on tape. He said, you spoke to Hynek. You spoke to Hynek himself, man. You're going to be famous, dude. And we're going on, and I'm like, yeah, well, man, I'm not in this thing to be famous. I'm in this thing to figure out what the heck happened and everything. Because, you know, this is really scary stuff, dude. I mean,
I know, yeah.
Somebody's motioning to me. I hear, excuse me, and I look up at the podium, and it's William Shatner, and he pointed his finger at me, and he said, will you shut up, please? So I got told to shut up by William Shatner.
I love it.
And that was my introduction to UFOs.
Oh my God, I love it. That is so priceless. I swear to God. Oh my God.
I know.
Well, now that we're kind of into how you've landed in this, and by the way, you know what everybody asks me about you? They always say, did Robert gain anything from the contact? Did he get? Did he still talking to the aliens? I mean, what happened as a recourse of that contact? And here's the other part that people have always asked me that I forget to ask you: is did you think you were having contact before you had that initial experience that you remember?
Yeah. Actually, I had. There was a phenomena that followed me when I was young, and this is where for many times when I was young, I witnessed in the middle of the night what's called full torso semi-etheric apparitions. And these are men and women like you and I who have already lived their life, do not have their bodies anymore, but I've always had the ability to see people that are on the other side. They were apparitions, semi-etheric. You kind of see through them. We call them ghosts or just incarnates. And they took me to doctors to figure out, what is this kid talking about? Because I could see them standing behind my teacher. I'd see them mostly at nighttime. Mostly, what happens is when we go to sleep at night, we're in beta. Hopefully, if right now you hear my voice and you hear Lorien's voice and you're awake and you see your surroundings, unless I'm boring you to tears, you're probably in beta, which is fully awake. When we go to sleep, we fall into what's called the hypnagogic, and it's a little window where you're sort of half awake, half asleep.
Right.
And then we usually drop into deep delta, and that's where you first get your first deep sleep maybe from whenever you went to sleep to maybe 2 in the morning. And then in REMs, when they measure the REMs, you can see that when a person sleeps, they kind of go up and down, a little bit up and down. Some stay in delta, some come up a bit, some come all the way through hypnagogic, wake up for a while, can't sleep, then fall back through hypnagogic. Hypnagogic is a little window that we have where, when you're on an airplane, right, and you're sort of like just nodding off and your head starts to bob, and you're not really quite awake and you're not quite asleep, and maybe you can kind of hear the clinking of the glasses and things like that, but you're so relaxed that your body is kind of out of the way and your consciousness and field are very relaxed. At that point, a lot of times for some people, their third eye will open up and see what's just beyond the material plane, which is sort of the next ether. It's the ether where discarnates walk through, ETs walk through it, lost loved ones, angelics, all kinds of things are in that next level that are sort of walking. In fact, while you walk through this atmosphere, not even all your thoughts are completely all your own. This probably sounds pretty familiar when some wife says, "I never understand my husband. I don't know where he's getting these ideas."
Exactly.
Because not all your thoughts are your own even. You're actually sharing this space. But that little window, I used to see apparitions, sure, and I still see them to this day.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. Now, have you seen any lately?
Let me think here. I didn't see him. I heard someone. I have a very close friend that was like a mentor to me. 2 Thursdays ago, I heard him speaking to me.
Oh.
And he told me he was very surprised that his passing came so quickly because he died pretty much all at once in an accident. He told me that my father loved me very much and that my father has seen me many, many times, and that he couldn't say too much. It was very brief. He loved his wife very, very much. What happens at death is that, and I always say death is a great way for an argument to break out.
Between yourself and God. Okay, no, sorry. I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah. And it's sort of like this. All of the above is true. For all of you who think death is a certain way, it probably is that way too. Some have lost loved ones that are standing right there at the point of death and ready to greet them. Others die suddenly, and they're not even sure what's happened. In fact, they deny that they've died because they see I'm still here and I'm still me, because you're you're actually your thoughts, and you lose your form. It's kind of like being in a dream. In your dream, you don't go, "Hey, what's going on here? I don't have my body." No, you're a point of reference. You're so taken up in what's going on around you, you don't really question whether you're dreaming or not. You're just observing and interacting. And so death is very much like that. For a lot of people, they it has to be explained that that you don't have a body, and they go, well, the next level beyond this can be just as real as this moment is for us now, which is surprising to people. And then there's the other layers. Yes. There's the heavenly sort of styled layers, and yes, there's the layers of light and existence and ethericness, and you may be out in the universe. You may shoot through the tunnel itself and immediately be met by an avatar. So I always say, really, if you look at all these experiences that people have written about, probably all of the above is true, and it's individual how people exit.
Right. Interesting. So when you go through the tunnel, what do you think's happening at that point? Are we heading off to another dimension? Do you think we're going to another planet? I've been hearing all kinds of things lately about what people think is happening in that tunnel of light, which, by the way, I have seen as well, and you've been in, right? I mean,
yeah.
Do you think that tunnel you went with the aliens is the same one that we go to when we die?
I don't think so. I think these are various styles of portals. I think they open up depending on what the nature of the operation really is. Is the person alive? They'll take them through this way. Is the person having just an out-of-body experience? They'll take them through this way. Is the person dying on an operating table, and are they flatlining? They might take them another way. So I think it's very, very individual how this happens. I always suggest there's a couple of great old books out there. All these latest books have great information. There's still a couple of great books out there, I think, that tell you about the nature of existence that I still hold true on, and that's one is Embraced by the Light by Betty Eadie.
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite
Beautiful
book, by the
old
way.
Book. Yeah. Yep. And, a conservative Catholic woman who just died on an operating table, went to the other side, and lived to tell about it and came back. The other one is Path of Empowerment by Barbara Marciniak, a 2004 book, which was really her channeling the Pleiadians, if you want to believe in the Pleiadians, but the Pleiadians are a collective that speak through her that gave a treatise on the human experience as they see it, sort of like as if to give an understanding of the nature of existence, of how things coalesce together via their opinion of how we sit in the third dimensional reality at the level that we are as really a primitive species. I mean, one day we were in a lecture, and Drunvalo Melchizedek I've always been a fan of his work, and somebody asked him in the lecture, and they said, Drunvalo, because he's very well known, in sacred, everything from sacred geometry, chanting. I was there that day when he called in the Kogi masters, and literally there were sounds in the room, and
really
incredible how he opened up something where we could actually hear the other side in an auditorium. I mean, it was something I'll never forget. But somebody asked him, he said, where do you think we are? If there is a scale of existence, where do you think we are? And he says, I hate to break the bad news to you, but we're kind of second to last.
Second to last, not last.
Well, we're not last. We're not in the eighth kingdom, and we're not quite in that kingdom. But we're a species that's just smart enough to end the actual existence of our own DNA heritage with a few people on the planet here that could spoil it for everybody. And
well, boy,
a few other things here, So I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know.
Well, I'm right there with them. I'm telling you, Robert. After what I've been seeing showing up on my Facebook page lately, I'm in shock and awe most days. I'm afraid to go to my Facebook page because the other day, I'm just going to rattle these off quickly, folks. Please don't be sick because I got to get this out of my head. female genital mutilation still going on in the world. Stoning people to death is still going on. They're still throwing acid on people. I see this stuff and I'm out of my freaking mind. I keep going, how does this stuff show on my Facebook page? I just don't get it, but I guess that they want me to keep knowing that there is evil on this planet. And
absolutely.
It's just unbelievable. And what blew my mind the worst last week is there was this poor girl in China. Now, it looked very real to me. They said in the Facebook that she had been a prostitute. She's naked, and there's all these guys beating her up and making her drink beer after beer after beer after she tried to escape a brothel. And she's all of 14 years old. And they're beating her up on Facebook. And all I could do was put a comment in there that said, how in the heck did this show up on my Facebook? And how in the heck does this go all over the world on Facebook and these guys aren't in prison? It just blows my mind that this kind of stuff can be happening. I mean, I don't get it, Robert. I guess I'm very naive in a weird way that I just don't understand how humans can do things like that to each other and look at themselves in the mirror and not wonder, what have I become?
Yeah. I mean, I would be very careful of each day is a building block. And every day our thoughts, deeds, and actions add up. And that determines karmic debt. People who don't believe in karma are not really probably doing their homework, or I hate to say the bad news, but they're not necessarily studying the fact that some people can grow profoundly. We're actually in a personal growth, quarantined, styled planet for souls that need and have elected to understand the levels of existence: emotional mastery, relationship mastery, physical mastery. It's one great big school. So you see some people who get it. I'll tell you a funny thing happened just today. We dropped, my wife is British, Elle is British, and my stepdaughter, Tanith was here, and we were we went to the airport to put her on the Virgin flight going over to London,
Right.
Elle always wears a bindi. A bindi is
I know, I love it.
Little jewel that goes in the forehead. It's a symbol of the third eye.
She always gives me those for little gifts. Every time she sees, like for my birthday or whatever, she hands me a little packet of bindis. I love it. It's so cute. Anyhow, go ahead.
Nice?
I know. I love that about her.
So we walked past these people from India. There was some ladies there, and they were wearing their bindis. And of course, Elle is blue-eyed, blonde, British, Anglo. She obviously doesn't look like she's from India. And she walks by, and I noticed these ladies all of them turned their head and looked at her, and one caught my eye and smiled real big. And at that moment, it was sort of like, I get it, you get it. Now, the bindi, which is interesting, and a lot of people don't question it. They think of it as sort of Eastern cosmic jewelry of some sort, but it's really the symbol of the third eye and the symbol of the initiate who is studying the laws between the material and non-material plane. And they understand the nature of the third eye, which is when they wear the bindi, it's just like saying a statement of, I am a student, I am studying some of the highest sciences on the planet, of the nature of existence itself and life and death, and that I'm here on a mission to grow profoundly as a soul. I am an initiate, I'm a student, and my third eye is open. I'm awake enough to know I'm on a journey of learning here, versus, say, somebody else that, spends an awful lot of time maybe at Walmart or, and never gives the nature. I spend a lot of time at
Walmart.
Well, you know what I mean. They don't give their own life really a thought. As far as, okay, now wait a minute. I don't come from here. I will be leaving here someday. What do I want to, if you can grasp the nature of how important it is, to be doing your homework while you're here. You asked me earlier, well, what did you learn from this experience? Of this.
Well, hey,
ET
now
experience,
having said that, guess what? We're gonna come back with that.
Let's take a break.
We're gonna take a break. Yeah, we're taking a break, and we're gonna come back with what did you learn from your experience? Because we've kind of gone full circle now, haven't we? So I want to hear what you have to say about that. Okay, everyone, stick around. Robert Perala is in the house tonight, and he's keeping me on track as usual. So this is a good thing. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton, and you guys know it's that time of the show where I'm supposed to be telling you, and I keep forgetting, and I'm going to do it this week. I'm supposed to be telling you guys that we're a MUFON, sponsored radio show. They have given me the blessing, the anointment on the forehead to tell you guys to get to MUFON, that's MUFON.com, and become a member of the archives. I'm sorry, not a member of the archives. What network am I on? Become a member of MUFON. And if you do that right now, let me tell you guys something. They're running a special. If you buy the live stream of the MUFON Symposium, you get a membership and you get a subscription to MUFON TV, which is a whole brand new thing that MUFON's doing now. It's a MUFON TV. So you get 3 things for it's $79. You get the live stream of the conference. You get MUFON TV for a year. That would cost you $79 by itself. And you get a MUFON membership. So you guys, you got to do this. You got to get to MUFON.com and go to the MUFON. Actually, it's at the MUFON Symposium page right now. I think they've just got the button up there. You can buy the live stream package, I think it is, and you'll get all those things together. So please find that. If you can't make this conference, and I'm telling you, this is good. Like I said, this is one of those conferences that go down in history that people 20 years from now are going to say, hey, remember that conference where blah, blah, blah happened? It's going to be one of those. So don't miss this if you can, and definitely don't miss getting on the live stream if you can, because this is going to be super crazy stuff. I'm telling you, it's just going to be one of those conferences, and I'm not missing it for the world. Even if I had to hitchhike there, I'd be there. Swear to God. I may not have a table, which brings me to the next part of my announcement at the top of the hour here is that you guys really need your help. If 12 of you, 15 of you can put in $20 to $25, and I will ask next week as well, to Lorien F. That's LORIENF, LORIENF at Comcast.net. If you guys could just send that friends and family to me into PayPal, I'd really appreciate it, because I've got to pay a big chunk of change for a table there to broadcast to all of you guys. I am going to do behind the scenes with Lorien at the MUFON Symposium, and it's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on IRN. It's probably going to be on Revolution Radio, probably over at Late Night in the Midlands. It'll probably be everywhere, because I'm telling you, folks, everybody that's in the radio business and the TV, podcasting TV business is like so excited about this conference, and they want to know what's going on behind the scenes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the people that are there as visitors and watchers on my show. I'm going to get some of the speakers on the show. And then what we're going to do is, if I can Wi-Fi the stream out, walking around with the camera, which I'm trying to pull together, folks, you may get a glimpse of certain things that are happening there that are going to be very interesting. And then the other thing that you're going to be able to do is you're going to switch over, because I'm going to stop my broadcasting during the big Corey Good events, which there is a live stream of their this panel they're doing that we're imagining is going to be quite extraordinary. So you'll be able to switch from me over to the live stream, watch all the stuff going down, and then get back to me after it's over, and then we'll dissect it. So it's going to be quite an interesting setup. I'm really working hard on trying to get my buddy Aaron in to help me and get the tech stuff all taken care of. And Ron James is going to be there from iVolve TV, and he's going to help. And I think we're going to have an extraordinary experience this time. So do please buy your live stream, be at the conference, Tune in for me. We may have to charge $5 or $10 just to cover all the bandwidth that we're thinking about throwing out there. But I hope you guys can afford that. We're going to keep it really cheap, but I've got to pay for some bandwidth. We're coming up to that wall now, so we'll see how that goes. But anyhow, in the meantime, if you could send a few bucks to help get me through the MUFON Symposium and still feed the cats, which is really the issue here, please send $20, $25, $5, $10, whatever you got. I'd really appreciate it to LorienF@Comcast.net. That's LORIENF@Comcast.net. Okay. Okay, back to Robert Perala. Okay, Robert, we were just talking about all these crazy fun things, and then we were going to talk about what you learned from that experience when the silvery guys with the orangey antennas and those cool boots they were wearing. See, I've seen the picture, folks. The boots they just cracked me up. It was like they're out of a 60s movie, or a 50s sci-fi movie. These guys are so cool looking. And I can't believe they're called the Space Brothers. I mean, I love that. I think it's so fun.
It was a name that was given to them, Who knows who started that name? But it came through.
Yeah, I think it's very cool. So what did you learn from that experience? Yeah.
First directly, I didn't really. The only thing I learned was it is just simply when I reached the point when I really realized, oh my God, people really do have contact with extraterrestrials, and it's happened to me now. And when you get it, and you really get it, and somebody can confirm it with you to a good degree, your face just melts. And it takes a while to get used to it. I remember for a while, I just couldn't believe it. I was walking to work every day on like some kind of cloud where I thought, my God in heaven, it was like touching the profound, when you vaulted. You think, my God in heaven, and I got to keep a secret. I can't say anything to anyone because I said, I just got to figure this out for myself. And it's like walking around with a real deep secret, and your whole life has changed because everywhere you go, the first thing you think about in the morning when you get up is the secret,
Right.
and your day is dominated by this sort of dialogue in your head of like, Jesus Christ, should I tell anybody? I can't tell anybody. Nobody's going to believe this. God, are you losing it? Yeah, maybe you are. It was like that kind of stuff goes on in your head.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
But here's what I learned. So it was later. What I really got out of it is that you have an epiphany, a profound experience. Somehow the other side touches you, whether it's an angel or a lost loved one. You have a profound dream, you have a near-death experience, whatever. From that point on, once you become sort of hooked in, you realize, okay, my real job is to work on my soul, work on my spirit while I'm here. I'm completely, to understand the nature of why I'm alive and why I'm physical is that I have to grow. I should grow profoundly, because at the end, when you leave your body, you're surprised to find out that life was like a mirror, and all those relationships that you ever had, and this is for the people out there in radio land who have lost someone. And if you've lost someone, I know how sensitive this is. I feel it. I'm there with you. I have it going on in my life too. You meet them again. There is no one's gotten off this planet with any of their relationships completely healed and resolved. There's great relationships, but there's still things to work on in those. And then there's some where you hear about someone that passed away and you think, God, I really wasn't clear with them, or we weren't clear at the end. We didn't speak the last few years. We had this argument, and now they've gone. So now all of a sudden time's up. So if you walk around really conscious, this is what I was saying, like when Elle was wearing her bindi, that look on that Indian woman's face struck me, because it was sort of an inner knowing as she sort of nodded her head and smiled like, I know that you know. And it's when you're here to work on not just your third eye, but the way you perceive reality, the way you respond to it. You're not just to be everybody's hypnotized by this bombardment of media and entertainment and traffic and all these things, but it's almost like you have to carve out a little time to say, I'm going to be really still. You know, when I was a kid, the Beatles went to see Maharishi in Rishikesh. You remember, this is in the middle of the summer of '67. There's the explosion of the Summer of Love, which is a perfect subject for tonight, really, because we were right on top of the Summer of Love right now, so we should mention it on your show, right? At that period, in 1967, they returned from the Himalayas, you know, and then they sit with Maharishi, and Maharishi said this. He said, they asked John Lennon when he got back, you know, what did you learn with Maharishi? You know, you were over there for a long time. You know, what about this little guru? You know, and he said, he told us that you had to sit still, or you're never going to know. And I thought, what does he mean by that? Later, I understood the rishis and the renunciants and the Vedas and all that, and the renunciants and all that they, were sitting still. They were accessing the other side and pulling that side into this side, so they were more connected to a larger picture than just like most people, like I said here, that just go through life not even thinking that anything's even watching them. There's gangs out there think that they're so cool, and they don't know that there's this committee that's walking around with them going, that's an interesting choice.
Daddy?
That's the world we live in. It is funny that there's just this whole network. Because you've lost your loved one doesn't mean that they're not seeing you. They are seeing you, and you're locked in your body, and you just feel it's pretty cut off, isn't it? It's really nice. Yeah. But they see you, but they can see you really well, and they can hear you at times really well. You know, not all the time. So it is a funny mirror. Anyway, I learned that you just got to learn to work and be the best human being that you can be and graduate nicely and gracefully from here. It's just that simple.
Yeah, that's true. Well, which leads me to the Japan story, because I swear to God, every time you tell that story, I'm in stitches. I think that is the funniest thing, but, you know, it does involve a little bit of illegal substance, which is now actually legal, so I guess it doesn't matter, right? I mean, this was a long time ago, right?
Well, you know, everybody who's probably listening to this show, I mean, I'm going to guess that most of you out there, sooner or later, have tried marijuana. My goodness, what an unbelievable thing! Listen, in the mid '60s, you might say this was really a growing phenomenon with musicians. I was a '70s kid, and I grew up with it. But in the '80s, I was a very successful businessman. I was in my dad's business. I was buying thousands and thousands of sunglasses. And every year we went to France and Italy, and we went to Japan. And in this particular trip in Japan in '87, I was up in Osaka at the top, about the 14th floor in what was considered the Royal Osaka Hotel. And I was smoking a joint. I took a little bit of weed into a foreign country. And in those days, it was serious. If you got caught with a joint in those days, you better just practically plan on them throwing away the key. I'm up there, I'm smoking a little bit because I wanted to take some into the country with me, and I'm watching this baseball team called the Osaka Oichis, and they were having a practice and everything. And I looked down, and I was told, you know, don't be bringing any substances. It's a foreign country, big consequence.
Well, yeah, at that time, Robert, weren't they throwing people in jail for like 50 years over a joint? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Macca got caught over there, they call him Macca.
Exactly.
McCartney, Paul McCartney got caught over there in 80, and he was lucky, and of course, he handled it differently, and they didn't know what to do with such a famous guy, so they said, we got to get rid of him, so this is not going to be good.
Yeah, they just shipped him home, didn't they?
Hold on to the next beating. That's not an idea. Yeah, exactly. So I was smoking this joint, and I looked down, and the cops this police pull in. And
no, wait a minute. We got to set this up right. I think you were at a window or a balcony, and you saw this.
I'm on the balcony. I'm overlooking this baseball team to my right, practicing down there, and then in front of me, down below, is the parking lot. And I'm just puffing away, and I look down at the parking lot, and I see 1 and 2 and 3, 4 cop cars. And then it looked like a security wagon of some kind, and then a town car behind it or something. And I looked down, and when you're in that altered state and you're coming on to some really strong grass, sometimes you think it's all about you, don't you? It's all about you. And I did, and I looked up at the balcony above me, and I thought, holy shit, I think they snitched on me. Somebody snitched on me. I thought, oh my God. And your face melts and you go pale and sweaty. And I went into I immediately got off the balcony, put out the doobie. I tried to flush. I flushed it down the toilet, and I thought, okay, pull yourself together. Don't panic. And you know how you talk to yourself when you're panicking? And you tell yourself, don't panic.
Yes, every conference we do together. That's what I'm sitting there doing. That I want you to know.
Don't freak out. Yeah, don't freak out. And so I thought, what's the best way to do? I said, you know what? The best way is to get the hell out of here. Change your shirt, put on a hat, like my baseball cap and a pair of glasses, go down and just walk out the lobby in plain sight like you're just going to take a walk. You are never here. And so I thought that's maybe the approach, So I got on my glasses. I'm sweating. I'm in the elevator. I'm going down the elevator. I'm prepared to just walk straight out. And just as the doors open, I start to walk and do a beeline out the door, and suddenly a hand stops my chest. A gloved hand, a man in a uniform, like a policeman uniform and everything. And then another one suddenly stopped in front of me, and I thought, that's it. I'm gone. I'm absolutely dying inside. I thought, how am I going to tell my dad while he was gone buying sunglasses? And I decided to take the day off that I got busted and I'm going to serve 24 years in a Japanese prison camp. So I'm standing there, and I'm just like so upset. And in comes this man, very nicely dressed, by the way. And I thought, oh my God, they brought the DA. They brought the DA himself. Shit, this is really serious. This is the part where the DA, asked a couple questions, and then I'm gone. Fuck. I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to say that on the radio. I'm so sorry.
But it totally describes the moment. I'm going to let you slide this once, okay?
Okay. And this nicely dressed man with these guards around me comes up. He's walking through, and people are noticing him and looking at him and everything. And he walks almost past me, and then stops, and then turns around and faces me. And I thought, here it comes. And he sticks out his hand, and he goes, hello. And I go, hello. It's just like, hello.
Did you grab his hand?
Inside, I'm dying. Inside, I'm dying because I'm thinking, I'm going to prison. And I was just welling up in tears. I was getting ready to tell him something like, I can explain, man. I'm not even that guy that was up there. And it didn't happen that way. And he just walked off.
He extends his hand to you. Did you grab his hand? Yes, I shake hands. Oh, okay, good.
So I shake hands with him. And he just says, hello. And I just went, hello. And, that's all. There wasn't any dialogue. I don't know. Maybe he didn't speak English. As he walks away, the policeman, looks at me and he goes, "You Rocky man." I said, "What? You mean, does this mean like I'm not like arrested?" He said, "Arrested?" He said, "What do you think is going on here?" I said, I don't know. I don't know what is going on here. And everything. He said, "You just met the president." I said, "What?" He said, "Lucky you're Reagan." And as soon as I heard "Lucky you're Reagan," I went, "I met the president?" He said, "Yeah, Nakasone. You met the president." I said, "I met the president?" And he said, yeah. I said, "Does it mean I'm not arrested?" He goes, "What are you talking about? No, you're not arrested. What an honor. You met the president." And I walked straight into it. I thought I was getting busted, and I met the president instead. That's how far you can miss it on planet Earth. Way to go, Perala. Brilliant
Every time
move.
you tell me that story, I'm in tears a lot. I'm just laughing so hard because I swear to God, Robert, that is the classic story of every guy in the 80s, anywhere in a foreign country or anybody in the United States. Because, there's still guys in jail for 50 years in San Quentin for a joint. I swear to God.
I know.
It's just like, I'm sorry I'm laughing, but it's so classic, so paranoid, so funny all at the same time. It's really got to be a movie. I swear to God.
It should have been. I should just write it out and send it into Hollywood and say, "Look, you can make a movie out of this. Just this.
Yeah.
Just
and then you can
one setup, and then write a story. Write a story
story.
around it. Write another story around it. But at least you got the nucleus of a great scene.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. It reminds me of, what was that movie about the guys, the bachelors that went to Las Vegas and then everything when they woke up for the hangover. The Hangover. It kind of reminds me of that. It's kind of like it should be in that movie because it's got all the trappings of the Hangover. I swear to God, it's too funny. Anyhow, Carol in the chat room said, by the way, she said, "You're very lucky it went that way." Yeah, I would say so, Carol. I totally love it. And Sky33 says she loved your story. She says it's too funny. So there you go. Oh, yeah. Great.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. So, by the way, in the last half hour of the show tonight, what we do is we ask everybody in the chat room to start throwing questions at you. So you're going to get pelted a little bit here in about 3 or 4, 7 minutes from now. And but let's see how much they pelt you. If they don't, I will. So that'll be good too. So now, do you remember meeting me? Do you remember when it happened?
You mean the bright lights, the trauma, the fear, the police, the bright light that disappeared into the sky that at an incredible speed that I will never forget. No, actually, I only remember basically the feeling I get. The way the memory even works is most people remember more how they felt than the actual action of what was experienced and everything. It's kind of a funny thing, the way the brain works. But I will tell you, I don't remember where we met, but I will tell you that at the moment that I met you, I knew that this was going to be a really hilarious adventure. It was probably going to go on for a long time. And we meet people all the time, and you don't have that feeling with just anybody. You don't usually have an encounter where you go, "You know what? I like this person. I'm hanging with this person, and we're going to do business."
Well, I'm going to tell everybody how we met from my point of view because it was extraordinary. And I got to say, that whole day was extraordinary for me. What happened was, folks, in 2010, I went to the last Victoria Jack UFO Expo in San Jose, California. And I was in the vendor room, and this guy with the baseball cap looks like the White Rabbit out of Alice in Wonderland with a clipboard. And he's kind of running through the room like, "I got to go, I got to be on time," kind of thing. And he comes whipping up to me, and I'm standing in the middle of the aisle kind of looking around, and I see him making a beeline to me, and he's coming right at me. And I go, "Oh, I don't know this guy." That's what my thought was first. And then he gets up close, and he goes, "Where have you been?" Those are the first words out of your mouth. "Where have you been?" And I went, and I'm looking around, I'm going, "Right here." And you said something like, "Well, we've got work to do." And I thought, who is, I'm thinking maybe he's mistaking me for somebody else, which I think is what you were doing. And I thought, oh, okay, well, fine. And then you said, follow me. I've got to go do an introduction. And then you started telling me about yourself. And I told you I was thinking about helping out with conference producing. And you said, oh, you got to hear me be an MC. And then you made me sit in a chair and listen to you MC for Jordan Maxwell, which was quite extraordinary. And
Really?
And then Jordan and I ended up talking for like 3 hours after that, which was another whole extraordinary experience. But it was like and then you started introducing me to everybody. You were like, oh, do you know this person, you know that person, you know this person, and blah, blah, blah. And you must have introduced me to 15 or 20 people. And then it was like they all knew me. It was the weirdest sensation, Robert. It was like suddenly I knew everybody. And then they all, like within a year, we were all working together. I mean, doing conferences and stuff. It was just the weirdest experience. And you have been such a good friend since then. It's just been amazing. But it was so funny how you were like, well, we got work to do. And I'm thinking, I guess the party's over for me. I guess now the real work begins, because it's kind of like you put me on the spot suddenly. It was, it's like the cosmic,
Funny.
The cosmic egg got thrown in my lap. And it was like, okay, guess what? You're part of the gang now. You got to go to work.
Yeah, felt natural.
Yeah,
Felt
it was
just
really
natural.
cool. Yeah, it was very cool, and just so many things have happened since then. I can't believe all the things we've done together. Anyhow, folks, we got to take that final break, get some questions going on in the chat room, everybody, because Robert will have an answer for you. I know he will. Okay, so we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. And I just want to thank IRN here at Inception Radio Network for being such great sports and putting up with me for all these years. And I want you guys to go to their website, which is inceptionradionetwork.com, and become a member of the Insiders Club. If you guys become a member of the Insiders Club, you get to hear paying radio in the archives, which is the only way you can do it, by the way. And you can also probably pick up on my broadcasting from the MUFON Symposium somehow in here. So we'll work that out, but I just hope you guys do that. If you support IRN, you're supporting me and you're supporting everybody here. So do it if you could. It's only, I think, $5 a month or so, something like that, and it's not expensive. So, give up that 1 cup of designer coffee and become a member of the Insiders Club here at Inception Radio Network. And I want to thank Late Night in the Midlands for replaying my shows. I also want to thank Gene Tatum over at, I'm not sure if it's Firehorse again or what exactly it is, but it's probably Veterans Truth Radio Network. He's replaying my archives again. And I think I got a couple other people out there replaying everything. So thank you all. I really do appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing the show, and I'm glad that people are out there actually listening to it. That makes a big difference for me. So anyhow, thanks you guys, and really get the app also for IRN and become a member of the Insiders Club. It really help out. And if you can help me out on my adventure to MUFON this year, you can do that at Lorien F. That's LORIENF at Comcast.net. I'd appreciate it. You can just go through PayPal and hit the friends and family and throw a little chunk of change. It would always help. It'll build up. So you never know. I might even have enough money to buy lunch. I might even be able to buy a bag of cat food. You never know. So there you go. All right. Robert Perala is in the house with me tonight, and he's telling us some great stories and some fun things. And I hope you guys are gleaning that this guy has real insight into what is going on in the paranormal, the extraordinary, the UFO community. And he's always at Contact in the Desert. He's a big hit down there, and he plays music too. Robert, we haven't discussed your music. What have you got in store for everybody on the website when the website gets launched here in September?
Well, that'll be when it gets launched, but you can see it at spectacularred.com right now. The music section is at my other website. The album's called Spectacular Red. I always wanted to make an album that had sort of the same direction and idea that McCartney and Lennon had when they were in that zenith period between 66 and 67, in that period of writing music with a lot of melody, a lot of great structure, fantastic lyrical content, great production, and took you on a journey sort of, rather than just sort of one little acoustic song, and then another one, and then another one, and you get through the CD and you go, okay, I know what this guy is now. I wanted to make sure that the music was continually moving in different directions to keep the listener, forcing the listener to listen to it because of its theatrics a bit, and so it turned out really, really good. And you can see it at Spectacular Red Dot. I'll be doing other shows too. There's other ones coming up. We had a lot of fun at Contact in the Desert in May when we did the show with Malcolm Dane and Linda Russell, and we had decided to do Friday night's show in a vintage aviation theme. So we came out dressed like pilots, and we sang a lot of early songs that were swing numbers all the way up to things like Michelle and Here, There, and Everywhere and stuff from Revolver. They have gorgeous harmonies. They sing 5 nights a week. They're professional singers from Vancouver, Canada, and they were just like, wow, knocked everyone
they're
out.
amazing.
They're amazing, and I want to work with them again next year on the next tour, so don't be surprised if you see a production that is a lecture and lecture or all-day workshop with a music section that's with it. It's a musical show, a concert with a lecture, and that's the way I want to open most of my shows. Because most people say, well, it's a funny two-community thing. The people in the book world that know me from all this conversation we're having now go, oh, I didn't know you were a musician, and there's the music people going, oh, I didn't know you were an author. What do you write about?
I love it.
So I have two different audiences. Cool. Yeah, they don't know each other. It's kind of funny, really.
Yeah, that is funny. Well,
right, so can I tell you something really quick that happened to me last week? I gotta say this on the radio. Listen, for all of you who are our age group, that are close to you can be in your 40s or your 50s or 60s. If you live the early period, last week I saw Queen, the old band that originally had, of course, Freddie Mercury led that band, and they're very theater-based and on a completely different approach to music in the sense that they would mix these incredible productions of classical with rock and roll and pop. And we've seen this guy that won second place on American Idol, Adam Lambert, who won second place. He didn't win it, but he was a runner-up in about 6 years ago. And I saw this show last year, and if you haven't seen this show, you should, because it was one of the most impressive, beautiful productions. I had no idea it was going to be like that. At one point, they kind of take you into the universe, and there's this beautiful, gigantic hand, and there's Brian May at the top playing guitar on top of this hand, and the whole voiceover of everything and production and theater aspect of this show was very heavily visual. And I got to say, because we've lost Michael Jackson and we've lost Prince, but I have to give him credit. We've gained Adam Lambert, and I never thought I'd hear myself say that. But I saw this guy for the first time.
I'm actually almost choking on my drink when you said that. Really? I'm impressed.
I was always thinking, he's very camp. Okay, I get it. Is this guy got the vibe? Is this guy the real thing? And you know what? I went there, I thought, well, then maybe the young girls like him and all that, so I had some charge on him and some, I was already kind of judging him a bit, and he turned me around, he floored me. What a wonderful singer. What a fun guy. What a fun guy who has a fabulous personality, has a way of uniting the entire arena, 15,500 people, and we're having a blast, and the songs were just so majestic. To see Bohemian Rhapsody done live and other things is just spectacular. I had to throw that plug in for Queen. There you go.
There you go. Oh, man, that is so cool. I love it. And you got to meet, you have met Paul McCartney's son recently, and you also met one of the Beach Boys, didn't you?
I did. I met Mike Love 2 years ago from the Beach Boys, and it was interesting. I had this book that, as I said, it's a coffee table book, and it was on that period of when he and the Beatles and Donovan, Mia Farrow, they all went to the Himalayas in the summer of '67, and they went to Rishikesh, right? And there's a book actually out there on that called Rishikesh, and it's strictly about this 2.5 week period that all these people came to live in an ashram. John and George later, stayed, and after everybody left,
correct, yeah.
But they're the only two that stayed, but everybody was out there for nearly 3 weeks. And anyway, there's a coffee table book on it. I see Mike, and they're going to take a break in his show, and the halfway point, they're going to take a break. He's right up the front and everything. And I leaned down. I had shot up to the front, leaned down on one knee, and I suddenly pulled the coffee table book open to a picture, a beautiful photograph of him with Maharishi and John Lennon just behind him, dressed in the caftan with the beads. And you could tell this is like the summer of love. This is the epitome. This is the moment. Summer of love is born, right? You got Mike Love, John Lennon, and the Maharishi, right? And I showed it to him, and immediately he stopped and he said, come here. And then I handed him a Sharpie, and he took a while signing it. The band walked off the stage. The house lights are going up, and it's just me and him. I'm thinking, this is so over the top. This is great. Mike Love. I mean, I'm still a fan. I do like to get an autograph.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding? I'm still a Beach Boys. I've got every Beach Boys album on CD now, of course. But, I mean, I go around the house cleaning to the Beach Boys. I couldn't do the house cleaning if I didn't have the Beach Boys to help me. I swear to God. And, so, and then you got to meet Paul McCartney's son, which was...
First,
go ahead.
Let me finish. The Mike Love story was when I pulled the book back and we looked at it, and it was sort of, not hard to see in the theater because it's still dim lights, and the lights are on, but it's very dim. And I looked down and I thought, Dave. He wrote it to Dave. I'm not Dave. I didn't tell him my name was Dave. Dave? I thought, oh, Jesus Christ, how could he have signed it over to Dave? And I'm Robert. And I said, well, wait a minute. And somebody said, let's get a light on it, look at it closer. And we got a smartphone on it with a nice bright light. We looked at it, and there it was. And I said, oh, I see. It says Jagaruadeva, which is the Sanskrit, greeting, of praising God,
Right.
And it has a number of meanings, but basically this is the acknowledgement, the chant. It's the chant, and so it was beautifully done. He was a nice guy. Then I did meet McCartney himself, actually. That story in itself is almost a little unusual. It was in the Adopt-A Minefield. You were kind of like
the last person into an event, and he walks in because they wanted him coming in later, right? I mean, obviously. They don't want him just, walking in a crowd of people. And you got to shake his hand, didn't you?
I did. I've been doing relief concerts on and off for a long time. And I believe in music for relief. And we would do a cause and raise money. In this case, I wasn't playing, but he was at the Beverly Hills Hilton Hotel. It would be 2005. And he had a guest, and the first year was Tony Bennett. And the guest, I saw him the second year, and the guest was Neil Young. And Jay Leno was the MC. And they had this show I think, only 3 years. And I was in 2 of them. And it was when he was married to Heather Mills. And we were in L.A. We were in the ballroom, and I had brought some investors from New York and some people that were really donating some very significant money.
Big bucks,
to this cause.
yeah.
And you could have a sit-down dinner for $1,000 only, and a sit-down dinner with a vegetarian plate and everything. And then they'll have dignitaries from the UN get up and talk and say about about the demining that is going on around the world, because in many foreign countries, the biggest problem is after a foreign war has ended, there's literally whole pieces of land that are mined still, and they're too dangerous to cultivate or even go into. So they have to go into what's called demining, and this is a slow process that costs a lot of money, and people's lives are at risk, that just look for a landmine and then try to remove it and make the area safe. So this was Adopt-A Minefield, the organization. And after being in the big room, meeting Alec Baldwin and meeting producer Andy Garcia was there, big guy in music. I told my friend Carol, I said, let's go out to the lobby. And she said, why? We can talk to this guy now. And I said, I think VIP always arrives last. And I tell you, let's just see what happens. And we went out to the lobby, and everybody was gone. It was empty. They even packed up the table that does the reservations and takes the tickets. And it was just me, her, and the guy from Indianapolis. And we had a feeling. And sure enough, the Lexus pulled up, and the guy got out, pulled out the radio, did an all clear, opened up the back door, and Heather Mills stepped out first. She's very pretty up close and in person. She's very glamorous, very British, very polished in a lot of ways. They're not together anymore, but right, she was a very interesting lady in her own. And then out stepped Macca, which is a nickname for McCartney. Paul goes by his friends all call him Macca, but so he came in wearing a white dinner jacket and a red T-shirt that said "No More Landmines" on it, and there was no one there to greet him. He's a knight of the British Empire, and there was literally no greeting team to say, "Right this way, Mr. McCartney," or "Sir Paul," and take him to the press room, because the press is all set up on bleachers, a little set of bleachers inside this other ballroom. They're waiting to go in to do the photo shoot, which lasts only a couple of minutes, and it's where Paul might answer one or two questions and pose for photographers from all kinds of magazines and newspapers. They're all set up waiting for him to walk in. And he looks over at us, and I kind of hear him mumbling, oh, these must be them. And he walks up to me, and he sticks out his hand, and I stick out mine. And I was like vaulted through the ceiling like a missile. I mean, I don't think I came down. Carol remarked as he walked away, she said, "Look, you're floating, you're levitating." I mean, I was really swept by this guy because I love the guy.
Now let's hold on 1 second here. Did he make it to the room okay? You didn't escort him? No,
we stayed there. And we just quietly, we did exchange some pleasantries, and I said, thank you for helping the children. And I thanked Heather Mills. I didn't think I could call her Heather because it was too close. So, I thanked, I kind of almost bowed my head, and I just thanked her as, I think her as a Miss Mills or whatever. Anyway, so they go into the next room, and as soon as he walks...
It's time for Optimum's Red Hot Sale. Get 200 meg internet, TV with over 260 channels, and unlimited home phone, all for $69.99 a month for 1 year guaranteed. And for a limited time, HBO and Showtime are included for 1 year. Switch today. Click for details and special web-only offers.
To the door, if you've never seen a press conference, a quick one, and a press, photo shoot, it was like 100 light bulbs going off at once. It looked like Star Wars. It was just flashes and guys yelling out, "Paul, look here. Look to the left. Please look to the left." And he's just standing there very cool in his Chelsea suede boots. Chelsea, they're kind of a black suede, same ones he wore in '66. And he's like, just posing and acknowledging people. And then it was over. I've never seen that before quite like that. When somebody walks in the room, there's complete hysteria, and all the photographers are Beatle fans too, and there's Time Magazine, Newsweek, and the New York Post, and everybody's yelling, "Paul, look this way."
Well, Robert, you and I will never have to experience that, I don't think. It'd be nice if we did, but I think we won't have to fall prey to that type of media abuse. What can I say?
No,
anyhow, we've got a ton of questions for you from the chat room, and we've only got about 7 minutes left in the show, so we got to really get through these. So let's see if we can answer yes, no, maybe, okay? Or expand a little bit. How's that sound?
Okay.
So
Short
here
and
we
sweet.
go. Short and sweet. This one is from, I don't know who this is from. Let me make sure I say this right and see who it was. There we go. It's from Carol. Carol in the chat room wants to know, does Robert feel he has received any music or lyrics from sources unknown? Do you get inspired? Do you have aliens telling you what to play and lyrics to create?
I don't know if the aliens tell me that. I wish they would, because that's such a better story. God darn it, I'd love to tell that story and say, yeah, that's the way it works. And I'm sad to say that inspiration comes from emotion. And I often will hear something that really moves me. And it'll move me into a space where I'll think, yeah, if I'm thinking about, people I've loved and lost, suddenly the words go so much easier. So most of my inspiration comes from emotion by something that's in front of me that speaks to me in some way. It could be a song, it could be a TV program, it could be a person walking by who nods to me. At least something that will trigger a little poetry in my head.
Oh, cool. Okay, I got that. All right, the next question is from Durhuff in the chat room. He wants to know, this is kind of interesting. He wants to know if you've ever had an orb experience, and if they've ever come to you and kind of taken you away or communicated with you, and if so, what age and where did you go if you went with them, or did anything happen? Did you have an orb experience, as we call it?
I've had a number of orb experiences, but I don't remember anything like being taken with an orb. Even when I was a kid, I was the beautiful pearlescent round, looked like a great big marble. What's the big ones called? The jawbreaker?
Yeah,
not the size of a jawbreaker. It looked like that. I mean, but cobalt blue really lit like beautiful, brilliant, and fly past me just like, when you see that, it kind of stuns you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I'll tell you. Yeah, orbs are a very interesting phenomenon. A lot of people that come onto my show have had some extraordinary orb experiences. So that's why they asked. Thanks, Durhuff, for that question. And here's another one from Durhuff. He wants to also know, Robert, please ask Robert if he thinks some of us are born as precognizant. Some of us, all of us, what do you think about that? Do you think we're all precogs, or do you think it's just a specialty thing that only a few of us get?
I think we all have precognition and everything. I think it's just, for most people, it's just buried very deep. As the baby grows up, it's so taken by so many images, language, material form, movement, that before we know it, only a few really hang on, to it. It's getting more common because the people that it's becoming common in are called, those are the indigos. And some of the indigos hold on to more of that connection to precognition of life before birth, which is a big topic in the book, in my new book, The Divine Architect, also.
Oh, cool. I love that. A lot
about life before birth, because we always talk about life after birth. Okay, another story like that. But what about what decided to even get us here? I mean, how did you end up you? And you could have been somebody else.
That's true. That's true. Good. I'm glad it's in the book. I love that. And let's see, one last question, and then we're going to have to say goodnight, is, they want to know if you have siblings, and if so, do they share the same interest, and if they had any of this contact or precog or ability to see ghosts or anything like that?
My son has said he's seen a number of things, and my stepdaughter Tanith has seen, who just left today for London, has seen little elementals, little orbs, things fly by, unusual. Oh. And she, too, has seen, incredibly, take it as funny as you want or whatever. People are going to say something, But yes, there are actual fairies, and they do have things that's like a little tiny 1-inch lady or man, and it looks like they have little dragonfly wings. It's actually a reality. They're very real, and they step into the material world from time to time. And when they leave the material world, they often get mistaken as an orb because they turn into kind of a cobalt blue or purple, and you'll just see like a light dart away from you, and then just disappear. So when they decide to slow down their vibration, if you saw one on your desk, and I've seen them before, it stops you in your track, and then all of a sudden, when they fly off, they turn very brilliant, and then they just disappear.
Well, you're not the only one that said that, because Joanne Richards has said the same thing, and so have a whole bunch of people. And you know what's funny about all that is Disney actually created Tinkerbell from that same type of experience, because she turns into a ball of light whenever she flies, too.
Exactly.
So,
it's based on real life. He knew
exactly.
he'd read somebody that
he certainly did. Probably Manly P. Hall or somebody like that. You never know. Anyhow, well, I can't believe it, Robert. It's the end of the show, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart as my best buddy out there for being on the show tonight, because it's been a gas. And I want to remind everybody that you can get to robertperala.com in September and check Robert out. And please, check at the end of August. Maybe we'll get it up early. You never know. It's Robert Perala. That's Perala, Perala.com. And just check him out soon, because, I think Robert's going to make a re-emergence back out there like he did with Heinlein and Friedman and our buddy Will Shatner and the gang back in the day, the young Hoagland. I think he's going to make a reemergence here this year, and his music is wonderful. So I hope you guys do that. Buy his book, listen to his music, watch his website when it comes out. Please do so. I'd really appreciate that, Robert.